and welcome to Only Stupid Answers. I'm not sick. I'm Sam Basher, and joining me as always...
I am sick. I'm DJ Will. No, I'm not sick either.
No, I'm sick. I feel like my whole head is just dipped in goo. But thank you for joining us for a review of Onward, directed and written by Dan Scalon, the newest Pixar movie.
Yes.
Hot diggity dog. That is, I think we're up to 22 Pixar films. But
there's no way to know.
I definitely don't have the brain capacity to figure it out. I'm just remembering who else wrote this movie. Keith Bunin and Jason Headley. Boom. Stars Chris Pratt, Tom Holland, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Ocatavia Spencer, and of course, who's our guy who's in every Pixar movie? You just looked up his name?
Ratzenberger.
Thank you so much. Let's hit that synopsis, please.
Yes. Set in a suburban fantasy world, two teenage elf brothers embark on a quest to discover if there is still magic out there. Spoiler alert. There just might be. Yeah, there just might be.
If you just look at the poster, there's a little magic.
Right now on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics' consensus is it may suffer in comparison to Pixar's classics, but Onward makes effective use of the studio's formula and stands on its own merits as a funny, heartwarming, dazzlingly animated adventure. And it is rated currently, it's at 82%. On Rotten Tomatoes.
Coming out March 6th, 2020.
Yes.
So get your tickets while you can. Gang, Pixar's usually, there was a weird little dip in the middle when we thought they weren't going to be able to come back. Yeah. But then they did with a lot of bangers.
What's your dip? The Cars movies, Good Dinosaur, and maybe Brave?
Maybe Brave.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like a fair... Yeah, that's a fair one, where it's like either you don't remember them or they were not great.
Yeah.
Or they're bad. Yeah. Or it got to bad.
There were a couple not good ones in there.
But with Toy Story 4, Inside Out, I really liked Finding Dory as well.
Yeah. Incredibles 2. Yeah. Which, by the way... I was discussing this with my wife. We think that might have been the last time there was a short in front of one of them.
Yeah, because of Bao.
Yeah.
Bao, that was a really good one.
Yes.
Yeah, and then they haven't done one. The Toy Story 4 didn't have one. And unfortunately, Onward doesn't have one. And it does not have a post-credit scene either. So there you go. There you got all the answers out of the way. This is a spoiler-free review. And of course, since it's a Disney Pixar movie, let's not curse. Not even the comments.
Just stay out of it.
Zip it.
So this is, as you've probably seen from the trailers that we talked about in the description, these are two elf brothers who have, this is in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler, are trying to resurrect their long-lost dad. If you thought, like, wait, is this a Pixar movie that's not going to make me cry? Guess what? It will.
Yeah. I told you after we watched the movie that I think any film, TV show, property, we read comic books.
Yeah.
Couldn't guess that. Afterlift, a Comixology original, dealt with someone ferrying someone to heaven and hell. And I think anything that's to do with the afterlife in any way makes me automatically cry.
Yeah, it's got the hot button right in there.
I felt like bad because I was like, can I even rate this movie fairly? Because I'm going to cry immediately. Yeah. So the premise is based on the trailers. Yeah. And there's a resurrection spell that the father set up for his sons to be able to meet him after he fell ill, and he dove into magic and created a spell that he could come back for one day and he could meet his sons as when they were of like adult age.
Yes.
For in this case, one of the sons turned 16.
Yes.
And
which, by the way, if you've ever met a 16-year-old, that's not an adult.
Did you meet me at 16?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's not an adult.
That's not an adult. I didn't have my license yet.
I know back in the day when you died at like 35. You know what I mean? Like maybe, but now
16-year-olds are president. That's how it worked. So yeah, he made a spell, and something goes rut-row with the spell.
Yes.
And basically only resurrects half of his
the bottom half.
The bottom half.
Yeah.
Bottom half. Best half maybe. Who's to say? I can't talk to him. Can't hear. Can't breathe. It's hard to tell what the rules are here, but that doesn't matter. So our two boys go on a quest to find a way to bring back their father fully so that they could meet him and talk with him.
And of course, there's a ticking clock. They got to do it by sundown. And you feel like, well, wait, isn't there magic all over? These are elves and there's dragons and stuff like that. And it's set up in this world very much like the hit film Bright on Netflix. That this was a traditional fantasy world in the vein of perhaps Lord of the Rings or Dungeons and Dragons. And as time has gone on, science and invention has diminished just magic's presence because the science is easier.
Yeah, easier. Everyone gets to do it.
Which is also a weird, like, they use the example of flipping on a light switch. Yes, flipping on a light switch is easier. Inventing a light bulb was not that easy.
Yeah, but if other people do it and I just have to spend money and I don't have to learn.
Yes, very easy. Yes.
There's a deeper psychology always with Pixar films. How do the cars work? Do they how do they have babies? It doesn't matter.
The Cars ones, Cars movies are probably the most dubious when it comes to the inner logistics.
But also, this is a similar formula to like The Good Dinosaur, where it's like, okay, at a certain point, history changed, and like what happens if other creatures lived, and that dinosaurs farmed the same way humans did. And in this, they got airplanes and pizza and Chuck E. Cheese's.
Yeah.
And then overall, we've been dilly-dallying explaining the movie, but overall, I very much enjoyed this movie. I feel like an 82% from me is a little too low. That's an aggregate.
Yeah.
But for me, I fully enjoyed this movie. From the performances of Tom Holland and Chris Pratt, they do an amazing job. Also, of course, it comes to the writing, but their performances, you really buy their brotherly relationship.
Yeah.
And they both fully realize each of the characters. Tom Holland being the more timid, shy, coming into their own skin character, while the older brother is more of he's a big, loud personality.
Yes, he's a Chris Pratt character.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, he is Andy Dwyer, but he's got different ears.
Yes, very much so. For me, I also really enjoyed it. I will say when, Rotten Tomatoes is like, it might, not compare great to other Pixar movies. That tracks. This is from the same director you were saying as Monsters University. And I really enjoy Monsters University, but it also feels like that kind of like still really good, but not like, it's not going to be like Inside Out or WALL-E or The Incredibles that I revisit and really means a lot to me. And this did make me feel things. Pixar really does a great job of like navigating right to your tear ducts. But it also deals a lot with like the traditional, when you talk about like magic and going to science and remembering the good old days. And it has a little bit of that, like, with the good old days back when we had to, like, the adventures were dangerous. And if you've ever spent like any amount of time like looking back at any point in history prior to this one, it's not great. And it's all that sense of like, it was better when it's a bit silly. And there's even a point where Chris Pratt's character is like, we got to preserve this monument. And if you've been alive in America in the past 4 years, the conversation of preserving certain monuments isn't a good one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I didn't take it that way,
Yeah.
but I understand what you're saying.
So it's like, it's not like this is a very Americanized story. So it's not like they're in like the UK where they have like Stonehenge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that is how we always bring fantasy worlds to life is because we're all Anglophiles. Like if there's what are those called, the flag, the
Union Jack.
Oh my god, I have like 7 T-shirts with that on there. Why? Why do I do that? But I understand your points.
Yes.
But for me, the way that they navigated the fantasy world and adapting it to modern day was pretty cool. Also, they picked a couple beasts that you're not normally familiar with, like a manticore.
Yes.
That's one of those ones where it's like, Mom and Dad were making up stories, and they were running out of creatures to talk about. It's lions, got wings, but scorpion tail. And the manticore is played by Ocatavia Spencer, and she does an amazing job.
Yeah.
She's very, very funny. And also, there's a cool like confrontation that she has with herself and also like her place in the world and what... And like she maybe got into like tax problems. I don't know. Like I do like those little jokes in there where they're able to adapt modern day problems with fantasy creatures and seeing them deal with it. And guess what? They deal with it the same as people.
Yeah, Octavia Spencer as the Manticore is a real standout in this movie. Really enjoyable. I also like Julia Louis-Dreyfus as the mom. She gets a lot. Laurel, by the way, is the character's name. But your kids will know her as the mom.
Yeah, but she is a standout as well. No, I the way they were able to pair off their characters and explore the world, especially when it came to, I think his Colt Bronco, the police officer.
Played by Mel Rodriguez from Last Man on Earth and from Better Call Saul.
Nice. And he's the centaur. And the exploration of him as like a horse cop, it's great. They really are able to find all the nooks and crannies for funny jokes with all of the mystical creatures that you encounter. And we won't have to say all of them because they are fun to discover in the film. And also the utilization of magic, because since it's such a foreign idea for our main characters to have to play around with, besides one character liking the idea of magic but never encountering it, it leads to a lot of fun like physical comedy, which Pixar is very strong at. Also, if you're a fan of Weekend at Bernie's, that's the basis of what the dad's doing the entire time. So he's not, he is dead.
Hold on.
So it is Weekend at Bernie's.
So if you were to rate this movie out of 10, we'll do the classic 10.
Out of 10. That's an easier one too. I'd give it like I really enjoyed it, and like outside of that, I have a soft spot when it comes to like, come on, Dan Scalon, the director and writer, talked about that like. He did not grow up with his father passed when he was very young, and it's just he always has those questions. It's like it's I'm kind of a sucker for that. So, but I can also analyze the movie outside of that based on the performances and how much I enjoyed the entire experience and the journey that we went on. So I'd give it like an 8.8 out of 10. Nice. It's not quite there to like an A because we were talking, but it's like there are some elements where it's like, oh, I might forget this, but I would revisit this movie and I would have a good time watching it again. And there's no part of this that I identified as bad. Yeah. It was just overall like when looking at other Pixar movies, because you're going to do that when you watch this film, it's just a little bit lower. But I think it is up there with some of the good ones.
And you might be like, what does that mean a little bit lower? Like, a lot of the jokes are very funny. Some of them are kind of hit or miss. Some are a little weaker. A little bit of the internal logistics of the world are a little bit like less thought out than with it, like the time that was spent in Inside Out conceptualizing the interior of a person's mind compared to like fantasy, but modern day, it's a little bit looser. So maybe it might grab somebody like me a little bit less. But I will say I also really enjoyed it. I would give it like a solid B. So that's like an 8.5. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a solid B. I definitely think, as we're looking at other kids' movies that are out right now, take him to this one. Yeah, take him to Onward. You would like a Pixar movie. There is something in there. And what I like about Pixar movies is when you say there's something in there for older audiences, it's not like just nostalgia or like thinly veiled sex jokes. You know what I mean? Like it's adult stuff. Like it's like the mom actually has things to do in this movie that will be entertaining for kids, but will mean something to adults.
And Manticore has a full meltdown about her place in life right now, and it's like, oh,
she's basically having a midlife crisis. Yeah,
you get to watch it on screen, but instead of being a person doing it, it's a Manticore, and she goes on like a rampage, and it's great.
I think also the Manticore's lair, let's say, has one of my favorite visual jokes. So stay tuned. Look forward to that. And also be sure to check out all of we did a review of other kids' movies. We did a review for Sonic the Hedgehog.
And since this is coming out Saturday, if you tune in Monday, we have a review for Invisible Man coming out. And oh boy, that's a fun one to talk about. So please keep your eyes peeled, but also check out patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. We've got a bunch of content coming out there right now. We're actually using our patrons to vote on what we're going to review. And we have a review for Mandy coming out soon. Boy, howdy. That's a movie you don't watch when you take cold medicine. You gotta be fully attentive during that one. But please tune in and also follow us on Twitter at Sam Basher,
at DJ Talks Trash,
at Only Stupid Answers.
Yank out the vowels from stupid.
Ooh, that's always fun to do. Back and forth, ping pong, ping pong. Like, subscribe, do all the good stuff, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye bye.